think, you know, hey, aren't I doing okay as a minority here? Works for me. Why do I need to be a majority behind walls in the middle of the Middle East? And that's true all over. I mean, I was just in India. You go to India now and you meet Muslims and Hindus and you think, boy, was partition a disaster. Unnecessary. Tragic. Tragic. And it's still tragic. So partition doesn't work. Dividing up people ethnically doesn't work. Nationalism is on the way out. People say, well, you know, France is for the French, right? Germany's for the Germans. Have you been to France? Have you been to Germany, especially Germany? You don't have to be German to be German. That's over. National boundaries are starting to go away, and any connection between ethnicity and national boundaries are, you know, it's a long trajectory, but it's happening, and it should be happening. So we're, you know, the idea of a Jewish state is completely anachronistic, wrong, and unworkable. So, what's going to be happening is going to be happening at the level of civil society. There's a lot of cross-fertilization and communication and connection going on between groups here and groups there, both Palestinians and Israeli Jews, who, you know, they come to Detroit all the time, especially Detroit. Okay, a lot of Palestinians and Arabs and Jews going back and forth giving talks. This is important. It's important because it really, really supports people, especially over there, in holding on and hanging on, because that's what they're doing, and that's what they're going to have to continue to be doing for probably decades to come as things start to unfold and probably unravel as well. We have to support those folks because they're living through very, very tough times. Both the Israeli Jews and the Palestinians on the other side of the Green Line in the West Bank. And I think BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanctions, is powerful. It's the future. It's the way to go. It's legitimate. It works in lots of ways, and we can talk more about that. But I do want to stop talking about. And it needs to happen. Here, I see two main foci for this work. One is the academy, and one is the churches. And the churches really need to lead the way. They need to lead the way, first of all, because that's the majority group, and the church is already well organized to do this. You see it happening with the Presbyterian Church, with the General Assembly. I was there. If you go to my website, you can read my blog on it. God bless them. You know, in 2004, on a fluke, because people didn't know any better, the General Assembly passed a resolution to boycott Caterpillar. Because they looked at their rules and they said, well, yeah, Caterpillar makes those D9s and they're destroying Palestinian homes and they're being used for military purposes, and it's a violation of the Fourth Geneva Convention, and yeah, it says here we have to divest from Caterpillar. So they did, and they got hit so hard, so fast. And being good Presbyterians, they said, oh my God, I'm sorry, we didn't know it would offend the Jews, we'll take it back. And they did. But every year, people within the Presbyterian Church, on a denominational level, go back into the fray and saying, no, 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 we have to do this. And they'll get there. And it's happening in the other denominations as well. And it happens at the local level, the church level, too. Okay, so Kathy's got a study group now. And on Advent, you're going to be selling olive oil, right? And people see a different face of Palestine. And the movies will be coming in. And people are watching videos. And how many tens of thousands of Christians take devotional pilgrimages to the Holy Land every year? 1 or 2 extra stops. Visit Jeff Halper, you know, and the Israeli Committee Against House Demolition. Visit Combatants for Peace with Israelis, ex-IDF soldiers, and ex-Palestinian prisoners talking about how they don't want to raise their children this way anymore. Visit the family circle where Palestinians and Jews who have all lost children to the conflict are getting around and talking about who the common enemy really is. And they see that stuff. It's either what they call the living stones rather than the dead stones, the holy sites. That's powerful. So education is really important. There's a whole other area that I won't get into now, but the academy has been pretty much hijacked by sort of an agenda, which I won't label it, but which observes two rules. One is Jewish sensibilities cannot be disturbed. And the second is that you cannot really touch the core of the Zionist ideology. You can nibble around the edges, talk about Palestinian rights, but you don't challenge the idea of a Jewish state. And there are lots of, I'm still looking for exceptions, but in many, many universities and seminaries, you have these, quote, interfaith institutes. They all observe those rules. So, you get to the kids won't buy it. And people who've been there don't buy it, but those rules are still very much in effect. I'm working with a couple of colleagues to establish an alternative to that, which will probably be a consortium of a couple of seminaries and universities. And God bless them, the Mennonites and the Quakers will probably give us our bootstrap on that. So in the academy is another place for the system. And you saw what happened in Berkeley last year with the divestment resolution. And there are a couple of other schools that are starting to divest. Now, divestment is not going to bring these companies down, and it's not going to bring Israel down economically. It probably will not be at the same level as what happened with South Africa. But it makes a real difference and it educates people. So I would say, this is what we're looking at for the future. We need to change the political wind, and the politics will follow. When Kathy knows this, I'm going to be preaching at a church, a Presbyterian church in Ann Arbor on Sunday. I do a lot of preaching, and my mother wanted me to be a rabbi. This is the closest she's getting. But it's the same stuff. I mean, you preach from the scripture, and it works. But I will often, the nice thing about the lectionary is that you've got the Old Testament and the New Testament. It's like a candy store for a preacher. It's much easier than being a rabbi because you only have the Old Testament. And I also often preach from what I consider the gospel, which is the letter from the Birmingham jail. And I tell people, if you haven't read it recently, go back, read it again. It's like today. Why we can't wait. Why, King, I think in that same letter says he's much more scared of the white liberal than he is of the Ku Klux Klan. And I think that's what we're facing today. The liberal, progressive folks, even the Jews, especially the liberal, progressive Jews, are still holding on to an ideology which is not going to work. And if we can let go of some very, very fundamental ideas about who we are and what we need to survive, then I think we can survive. Otherwise, we're going down, and I fear for that. So let's open up for some conversation and discussion.